Thank you for watching the Whittemore Community Magazine's Hour of Power Live on Facebook with your host Edward McQueen and April Garner.
Good afternoon, good evening. This is Monday, July the 20th, 2020. Those numbers we are in good sync with. I'm your co-host, Ed McQueen, and co-host, of course, Sister April Garner, engineer in residence.
Engineer, we're having problems today. Technical difficulties, it always happens.
Yeah, it happens. So I'm sure we've got a very understanding audience, and everybody's going to try and understand and bear with us for the time being, because we've got a lot of important information today regarding our school system and our number one priority, our children. I want to make sure that things are going well for the parents to make good preparations for their starting up the system. If in the event it starts, and we just got to keep our fingers crossed, I guess. As the Horry County schools are scheduled for a September 8th opening, it's our understanding that after meetings, they're gonna have amendments and things will have to change based on what this virus is doing. So it's our responsibility, and us as our as parents and as communicators in our radio and broadcast today to keep you informed and make sure that we can assist you in better preparations for this opening on September 8th, 2020. So my co-host, Sister April Garner, is right here with me. She's got, along with our guest, our guests are ready, right? But first of all, there are a couple of things that we, one is that we usually start off with our sending our condolences and our well wishes out to our sick and shut in, especially, and hoping that everybody is on the amending ways of amending, and just being helpful. Okay, healthful, not helpful, healthful. So we usually start off by naming our jurisdictions alphabetically: Allentown, Aner, Chapee, Gresham, Bucksport, St. Paul, Homewood, Chesterfield area, Wampee, South Myrtle Beach, North Myrtle Beach, Little River, Big River, Santee, Merle's Inlet, Paul's Island, Georgetown, Chapee, Annie Village, Plantersville, Jackson Village. I'm not reading. This is coming from my mind. Jackson Village, Hemingway, South Carolina, Washington, D.C. We're worldwide, so you get us on WCMagazine.net. I'll say that again, WCMagazine.net, and we're worldwide. So, but we do like to just pay close attention to our local jurisdiction here, because a lot of our information is relevant to what the local people need to hear. But don't get me wrong, we have national information that we're dwelling on sometimes, and we want to make sure that you all are up to date on that too. So I'll just abbreviate that right now, but we're going to deviate just a little bit today. Usually we'll have our Black History moment around a half hour after the show, which is like 7:30. Starting a little late today, but please forgive us. Our sister, our historian, Sister Joella, she's going to give you a good, quick quick moment of Black history. And I think she's gonna talk about the correlation between the virus, so to speak, and today's transportation. And in that, under that umbrella of transportation, we've we want to recognize the passing of one of our founders of our Coast, called Coast RTA transportation system, and he plays a unique role in our Black history. And so, without further ado, do you want to go to commercial first? I can't hear you, April.
Yes, let's go to commercial first, and then that'll give Sister Joella a chance to catch her breath so she can do the Black History moment, okay?
Right.
All right, here we go. Having problems with your vehicle? For quick, prompt, and courteous service, call Snag and Drag Towing. Gregory Graham will make sure that you're taken care of right away. 843-997-0751. That's Snag and Drag Towing Service at 843-997-0751. If you're looking for flowers for any occasion, the Daisy Fair Flowers is here to help you. They offer an enormous selection of flowers, gift baskets, and live plants for delivery in Conway, South Carolina. Serving Conway since 1980, the Daisy Fair Flowers, 1400 4th Avenue in Conway, or call 843-248-7222. You may also visit the web at thedaisyfairflowers.com. Looking for a full-service funeral home with a broad array of services? Look no further than Mckeever Funeral Home at 1408 Racepath Avenue in Conway, South Carolina. They offer a wide variety of services, including traditional funerals, memorial services, and graveside ceremonies. You can reach them anytime, day or night, at 843-248-2706. That's 843-248-2706. Mckeever Funeral Home in Conway, South Carolina. George L. Williams Jr. is CEO and licensed funeral director. Support the party that supports you. Vote for your own interests and those of your community. The choice is clear. Horry County Democratic Party. Take a stand. Register to vote 2020. This advertisement is paid for by the Horry County Democratic Party. Hi, Sister Joella. How are you?
Oh, my beloved Sister April, I'm well and praying that everyone else is doing well. It's always a blessing to come before you and Brother Edward on this show to just share a moment that we can always be proud of. And thank you so much for your patience and just working with getting the technology part of it set up. So I'm well, and I pray that everyone in Facebook land is well. And YouTube as well. I'm learning the language. So
and on the WCMagazine.net website.
Yes, ma'am. Yes, ma'am. I want to start off today, first of all, sharing a moment about the two national icons that we lost last week. It is with sadness that both of them passed on the same day. But it's a divine sign for us to say that they fought together. And I'm talking about none other than Representative John Roberts Lewis, and Reverend Cody Tyndall Vivian, two helpers of the late Dr. Martin Luther King, who had a vision to help everyone and to give rights to everyone. Sister April, do you have the pictures of them on the screen? So that our family.
Actually, Brother Edward has the pictures.
Okay.
Yeah, he has the pictures.
Okay, because you can see them on the television if we're not able to pull up the pictures. But these two legends worked. And as they always say, that leaders are not made, but they are born. And these two men, Representative John Lewis and Reverend Vivian, had a desire to help people. And they walked and talked with Dr. King, who wanted to have things like voting registration, civil rights for everyone. And they paid a price for that, being beaten, being persecuted, threatened. And it's just an honor that we can say something good about these two icons. And that's why it's very, very important, family, to think about voting, because they were the ones that opened the door for us to receive the privilege of even thinking about voting. And today, we don't seem to have that desire or that will to want to support anyone who comes into our realm of trying to change. So with that being said, I would like for our young children to have a recognition of these two men, two great men. And this was 55 years ago. And it's very, very ironic that they both died on the same day. So again, we express our condolences to their family, to us in the Black community, and really to the nation. May God continue to bless those who come along and keep the path open for us to receive freedom, justice, and equality. The next icon that I would like to talk about, who recently passed, is Mr. Ivory Wilson. As we were on the show last week, Councilman Bellamy said that, you know, we have local heroes in our community. And in doing research, we did find that Mr. Ivory had a vision along with two other great men in the community, Mr. Clarence Watkins. Can you pull that up for me? You can get him. And Mr. J.R. Taylor, who had the vision to want to complete bus service for the area being provided by Coastal Rapid Public Transit Authority. The dream that they had started on, or began really on July 4th, 1980, when Mr. Wilson, Watkins, and Taylor began planning to provide Horry and Georgetown counties transportation for those in need to get a place of employment, to get back and forth for their employment, shopping, and medical office visits. The company began with 6 GM buses on lease from the Metropolitan Atlanta Transit Authority. In the first year that they started out, the new transit company enjoyed an average of 332 boardings each day. The following year, that number grew to 729. For the past 16 years, the company operates as a private, nonprofit organization governed by a 3-member board, Mr. Ivory, Mr. Taylor, and a Mr. George Richardson that came in later. In 1999, CRTPA became the public nonprofit Waccamaw Regional Transportation Authority, guided by a 9-member board of directors, and began doing business across Horry County and other places. Mr. Wilson remained loyal to this over the years until his passing this month. He indeed, along with others, were icons in our community. And I say that to the children because now they are getting ready, reportedly, to expand the bus service to other parts of Myrtle Beach. Take advantage of this opportunity to learn more, because when you have a vision, don't feel afraid to step out on it. Thank you so much for listening, and may God continue to bless us. Back to you, Sister April.
For all of your insurance needs, home, auto, and life, see how it feels to be on the #1 team with Tony McAfee of State Farm Insurance. Call Tony at 843-903-7800 or visit him at 3888 Renee Drive in Myrtle Beach. Like a good neighbor, State Farm is there. Looking to start a new career? Train to work in Myrtle Beach. Classes starting soon. Free to eligible participants. Short-term, 3 weeks or less in hospitality, culinary, electrical, plumbing, and more at Horry Georgetown Technical College. There's more. Continuing education at 843-477-2020. Horry Georgetown Technical College, where there's more. Enjoy soul food the way your mama made it. You'll be surrounded by some of the best food in Horry County and affordable prices. Blue plate specials, senior plates, and more. Daily specials at Big Mike's Soul Food. Big Mike's Soul Food is located at 504 16th Avenue in Myrtle Beach. Call your order in at 843-712-2048 or visit BigMikeSoulFood.net to find out about the latest special. Big Mike's Soul Food. Soul food, the way your mama made it. Treating conditions from A to Z. Schedule an appointment today. Ask about acceptable insurance coverage at Waccamaw Primary Care, 660 Singleton Ridge Road, Conway, South Carolina. Dr. Winston D. Mckeever Jr., a trusted and reputable source in Horry County and beyond, has all you need for family practice and sports medicine. Call 843-234-4362 to schedule your appointment today. Waccamaw Primary Care, 660 Singleton Ridge Road, Suite A, Conway, South Carolina, 843-234-4362.
We're back.
Yes, we are back. So, of course, everybody's anticipating this conversation that we're going to have with our special guest. And we definitely want to go ahead and get into tonight's discussion with a member of the Horry County School District who is going to talk to us about community preparation for the reopening of schools September 8th. Now, that is the projected date of opening for Horry County School District. And of course, there's lots of conversations that are going on now about how that will be executed and what parents and even students and staff, everybody who's involved with returning teachers, what they need to do and consider as they prepare to go back to school. Now, what we've learned, of course, is that going back to school has a number of different dynamics attached to it at this point, all due to COVID-19. And so our special guest is here today to talk to us about a few things that are probably raising some questions. And we also have a few questions that we'd like to ask that were sent to us prior to the show. And we want to encourage everyone to make sure that you post your questions or your comments in the thread so that we can moderate those questions during this broadcast and allow our guests to answer as best possible. Now, of course, we always put out the disclaimer that we attempt to get to every question and comment. Sometimes it's not possible depending on where we are in the conversation and, the flow and time and all that good stuff, but we will make every attempt to, touch upon every question that we have in some form or fashion. If you're watching from any of our pages, Whittemore Community Magazine, from YouTube, from our WCMmagazine.net website, or any of the other pages on Facebook, again, please send us your comments and your questions, and we'll be more than happy to moderate those for our special guests. So at this time, I'm going to bring on our special guest, who is Daryl C. Brown, Chief Officer of Student Support Service with Horry County School District. Hi, Daryl. How are you?
Hey, April. How are you doing?
I'm doing well tonight. Trying to, I don't know what's going on, but fighting behind the scenes here with some technical difficulties. We rarely have technical difficulties, and maybe the system is afraid of you. I don't know. I heard you're the man at Horry County School District.
No, I work for the man.
Are you? You're the man sitting next to the man.
I work for the man.
At least he's admitting it. So
exactly, he knows the deal. So, and you're right. So, at any rate, but I'm sure that you're doing a wonderful job with the school district, and you all have had a very big job at the school district to try and figure out how to restart school in a COVID world. And this is something that is totally beyond anything we could have ever imagined. We ended school early and abruptly by going into quarantine back in March or April. And of course, a lot of the students in Horry County School District and beyond, had a lot to deal with as far as adapting and adjusting to that new way of learning and the new environment, not being able to do what they normally do. And so now it's kind of come full circle back to another school year, and it's time for us to restart. And there's some marching orders that have already been kind of handed down and some things that have been decided, but there's still a lot of questions, a lot of confusion. There's a lot of discussion because people are talking to many different people and pulling on different resources. So we just wanted to make sure that we had, gave Horry County School District an opportunity to come on and talk about the instructional plans, the restart dates, and anything else that you plan to cover tonight. And I'm sure this is not going to be the last conversation that we have with Horry County School District. We definitely invite the school district and the school board to be a part of this discussion. And so again, parents, this is very important for you all, and we want you to post your comments and questions. Now that you have a listening ear and someone who's willing to talk, and now's the time to answer questions. And if he can't answer everything, I'm sure he'll take inventory of what your concerns are and take them back where he needs to who he needs to address them with. So Daryl, why don't you start by just telling us a little bit about yourself? How long have you been with the school district, and how you have a very interesting career that led to the school district?
Well, April, Mr. McQueen, when he was doing his introductions, basically touched on a lot of the places that I've been a principal. I've been in education going in my 27th year, or it might be 28 now. But I was a principal for several years in several different counties. I started out over in Williamsburg County as a principal at a King Street Junior High School. And then I was fortunate enough to become principal at Carver's Bay High School down in Georgetown. I heard Mr. McQueen, he called out Annie Village, Jackson Village, and my folks down there always will have a special place in my heart. Then I got the opportunity to come back to Horry County and was principal up at North Myrtle Beach High School. I heard him call out the Little River area. So got a lot of love for those folks up there. My family's hometown. And then I got the opportunity to absolutely come, home, and become principal at Aner High School. So I've been around a while and seen a lot of things. And fortunately, I'm, like I said, back in Horry County, been last several years. And like I said, I'm now the Chief Officer for Support Services, which means I handle the things dealing with the construction of schools, the nutritional services, school transportation, things of that nature, school safety and security. We have chief officers for different divisions, and I'm the chief officer over those divisions.
Okay. All right. Very big job indeed. Keeping everybody safe and fed and transported back and forth. You've got a lot to consider, and all of those things have to be considered as you all map out the plans for the 2020-2021 school year. So Daryl, just kind of, to kind of open us up on some of the things we'll be talking about. I know it probably is a pretty daunting task trying to pull all the information together and to come up with a master plan for this. So tell us who all is involved in the decision making, and how you all have pretty much arrived to what you have as a plan of action as of today.
Well, the superintendent convened April what's called a HCS reopening task force. And basically this is the members of the task force subcommittees were appointed by the superintendents, and they were representatives of from multiple stakeholder groups. students, parents, teachers, principals, staff, folks from those groups. And they were charged with considering the many factors that can affect students and employees in this environment. As you said earlier, this environment is unprecedented. We've never dealt with anything like COVID-19. And quite frankly, I hope we never have to deal with anything like this again. This is awful. The pandemic has caught everyone completely off guard. And these task force members were asked to develop operational plans in five areas that would address variables which could negatively impact health, safety, and educational concerns. These plans developed for these 5 areas were provided to the superintendent as advisory information for developing a comprehensive reopening plan for the school district. So that's where we are at this point in time. Those 5 areas are public health and safety, school operations and logistics, teaching and learning, equity and family needs, and social and emotional health. So those are the 5 areas that we're doing that our plan concentrates on. And we use several different resources to make these plans. And we use the accelerated ed through the State Department of Education. We use their guidance and recommendations. We use the COVID-19 interim guidance for school operations from DHEC and all the recent disease activity from DHEC. And we also use the Centers for Disease Control, K-12 schools and child care programs. And all of those are available on our school district website. When we attack this task force attack this reopening plan, we wanted to base our decisions on science, because as you've heard, science is what is going to be the determining factor of getting us through this pandemic. We have to go on what is scientifically proven. And I know there's been a lot of consternation out there regarding how we start school. But I can tell you right now that for the 2021 school year, HCS will utilize one of 3 methods of instructional delivery, and it will be based on science. If in a high spread condition, we will continue to do the full-time distance learning. In a medium spread condition, we will use a hybrid model, where we will have some face-to-face and some distance learning. In a low spread, which is what we all want to see and is the safest model, then students can come back face-to-face. Well, the issue is at hand right now is most of South Carolina, Horry County definitely is in a high spread area. So right now, distance learning would be the way we would have to go, because you cannot safely put those students back in schools right now, if you are in a high spread area, and we're in one of the high spread areas in the state.
And so you've pretty much broken down the 3 levels of disease activity, as you say, and their correlation to the learning method that would be used in that respect. And we know that there have been some orders even from the State House as far as what you need to do. So how are you all planning to tackle those orders from the governor, who appears to desire some face-to-face contact with the students and teachers?
Well, like you said, science has to drive this. Our superintendent and our school board are committed to using scientific evidence to safely put students back in school. And right now, the science is saying at this point in time, if we had to start today, that you can't safely put students back in that school. I mean, you can go to DHEC and pull that up. Because like I said, we're in a high transmission area.
So what do you see that has to take place between now and September 8th for it to be for it to meet the requirements for getting back? It's just go even at one of the spreads you call high, medium, or low.
Well, what's going to have to happen is it's going to have to be some not so many positive tests. It's going to have to be not so much transmission of it, and people are going to have to socially distance and wear masks. I mean, we're going to have to cut down the incidence rate. That's the only way to get at this monster pandemic.
Yeah. Well, that means that it's got to be an accelerated effort for testing then. between
Well,
none.
and that is what DHEC and, the Centers for Disease Control, that's what they're trying to do. All we can do is act on the information we get from those sources.
So they feel that they will by that time have adequate testing done in order to, to get one of the spreads, maybe a medium spread, by September 8th.
Well, I believe that's the hope.
Know that they can do that by September 8th. That is why, we have several different things that we can do here. Like I said, in a high spread area, we would continue to do distance learning. Mm-hmm. Medium spread would be, a hybrid. And in a low spread, then we would do face-to-face. We would need to be in a low spread based on what the CDC and DHEC say for us to go back face-to-face. And like I said, looking at the numbers as they're coming in, we're still rising. I just don't see that happening by September 8th.
Mm-hmm. So I just want to make sure that everyone is clear, because I was a little confused by your question, Brother Edward. But you're saying that with the testing, of course, we're going to have results that will reveal whether or not we are still rising in cases or reaching the mediums and the lows. Is that what you're saying, Brother Edward?
Yeah, right.
Okay. Yeah. So, I mean, the only way to understand that is to make sure that, the testing is happening. And I believe there's there's a lot of effort around the Horry County area and areas all across, South Carolina to make sure that free COVID testing is available and, and people are encouraged to be tested. And so, it's just really interesting too that, with these dynamics and the fact that we aren't going to see a flattening of the curve or these numbers lower, it's not going to be a result of testing. It's going to be a result of people's behavior and whether or not they actually wear the mask, practice the social distancing, wash their hands, and all that other stuff. We could hope that the testing will reveal that is happening, but so far, that's not really the case.
And April, what needs to happen is we really, the testing needs to continue and probably use more testing because what's happening is the testing results that we get are normally 5 to 7 days old because it takes time for them to get the test processed.
That's
and
right.
This is what's happening across the nation. So, we're actually running a few days behind, based on the numbers we're getting.
Mm-hmm. And then the dynamic that's also in place, Brother Edward, you get that test today, like Darryl has described. It takes 5 to 7 days to get the test. And if you're smart about it, what you're going to do is quarantine yourself or make sure that you're not exposing, possibly exposing other people while you're waiting on your test results. But that's not happening because for whatever reason, because people are still doing whatever they're doing. And then if they should receive a negative test result, and thank God if they receive a negative test result, hopefully they won't shift their behaviors that would then result in the possibility of becoming a positive test result between now and September the 8th. So there's just so much that, you have to deal with as far as the dynamics are concerned. And it really is, it creates these concerns and it will continue to create these concerns, especially for our school districts, because you're trying to put a plan in place to get students back to learning. So before we go into Brother Edward's comment, I know he's itching to roll something off, right? And say something. I do want to recognize our viewers. Thank you so much for joining us. We do appreciate it. Like I said, we have a bunch of questions tonight that we'll get to if time permits. And if, we won't, of course, ask duplicate questions, but we're going to ask questions that relate to our conversation tonight and some things that Darryl may need to add clarity to for us. So thank you, Paul Campbell from Atlanta, for joining us again tonight. Betty Goss representing Bucksport, as always. Van Goss in North Myrtle Beach. Marjorie Mckeever, thank you so much. And I'm going to get to all 10 of your questions, Ms. Marjorie. Priscilla Fuller, I don't know where you're from, but thank you so much for joining us tonight. You know how she is. And Valerie Koba Evans, she keeps us on our toes. And Valerie Wallace Evans, thank you guys so much for joining us tonight. Just wanted to recognize a couple of people that I see in the stream. So Darryl, because we do have so many questions and I want to make sure they're relevant to what you're talking about at the time. For example, Ms. Mckeever wants you to please remind us of the 5 areas that you were talking about earlier. And you mentioned public safety, school operations, teaching and learning, equity, and social and emotional.
Yes.
Okay.
And April, all of this draft plan can be accessed on the school district website as well. So if anybody would like to take a look at it, they can go on there and look at the draft plan at any point in time. But the areas are public health and safety, school operations and logistics, teaching and learning, equity and family needs, and social and emotional health. Mm-hmm. Because they can go in there and do far more research than I can tell you in this brief time tonight.
Mm-hmm. Absolutely. Brother Edward?
Well, yeah. Could you, I haven't read the draft, but could you expand a little bit on, like, when you say equity and family needs, why would kind of dwell on the word equity just a bit? So,
well, I guess what we're looking at in that, because I was not the chairperson of that committee. I was the chairperson of the school operations and logistics committee. But what we're looking at in the equity and family needs basically are making sure that all of our areas are addressed. You know, we have a high ESL population. We have a high free and reduced lunch population. And what we need to make sure is that we have all of the resources in place to address the needs that these young people have developed throughout, this pandemic. So that's what they were charged with doing. Like I said, you can get online and research that, because like I said, I was not as involved with that section as I was with my section, but you can get online and research that section in more depth.
Okay, another question that's coming from our viewers. Do you think that there's a possibility that the September 8th opening date will be pushed back? Based upon what you know right now.
Based upon what I know right now, and this could change because this pandemic is changing daily. But I think at this point in time, the board voted last week, to go with September 8th. We've already redone the calendar, and it's been published, which it also can be assessed online. I think September 8th is a pretty solid date.
Okay. All right. So there's another question. Is there an orientation or training that will be done with students before they return to school?
That would probably be a question for our teaching and learning subcommittee. I know we have what's called leap days. There are 5 days built in before students come back, and what they stand for are learn, evaluation, analyze, and preparing students for the upcoming year. And there's going to be addressed to grades 4K through 8 to participate in these leap days. And what they're trying to do is find out the deficiencies from those kids from the previous year, so we can try to make a plan for them for this upcoming year. So that's what the State Department and the legislation has designated, 5 of those days. Now, any formal plans for orientations, I'm not aware of, but those would also be functions of the individual principals of the schools. They may be planning something virtually, but like I said, that's in another wheelhouse, and I'm not on that side of it. So I don't know personally, but there could be some plans along those lines in there.
Okay. And since we're on the subject of orientation and training for the students, is there any type of training that's planned for the parents, as far as technology is concerned and other things that might help them with the virtual learning environment?
Well, the thing, April, with that, and once again, parents should reach out to their schools if they have any, additional needs regarding that. And a lot of people got caught off guard with a certain degree with this pandemic back in March, because basically, we were in school one day and the next Monday we were not. Mm-hmm. I mean, that's how fast this thing struck. So there's been a lot of staff development for teachers and administrators, during the summer, so we don't get caught. And basically, we were building that plane as we were flying it last time. Mm-hmm. So there's been a lot of staff development to address a lot of those issues, since that has occurred. But like I said, when parents have issues regarding technology, each school has a designated person, that handles those technology questions, and they should not hesitate to reach out to their individual schools and look for that help.
Okay. Let's see. The next question, if Brother Edward doesn't have a comment, I'm just going to kind of keep on going with the question so that we can get through the discussion. You know, you can chime in anytime, Brother Edward, but since we have so much that needs to be covered.
Yeah, right. Yeah, just get the question. I do have some comments, but just go ahead and get there.
Okay. All right. So let's see. Here's a question from the North Myrtle Beach area. Would you consider makeshift schools and communities to ensure enough manpower for social distancing? Do you think that that's something that the school district would consider?
I would need more clarification on exactly what you're talking about.
Mm-hmm. Okay. And of course, I don't know just based upon the question here, but it sounds like maybe some type of community schooling that, you know, maybe there's some organizations or entities within communities that could help with the social distancing. If you will, please provide me with a little bit more information related to your question. Just be as simple as possible about what you're asking. And we'll try to get as much, you know, out of this conversation as possible. Also, the extracurricular activities, you know, I think there's some back and forth going on with the football and the athletics for the year. Do you know anything about that?
Well, at this point in time, you know, we're not moving forward with anything along those lines. That could change. But once again, we're still in a high transmission area. Mm-hmm. And, you know, we've had some discussions on how to move forward with that. But hopefully in the next few days, you know, some decisions will be made with that. But it's really tough right now, you know, with the environment we're in.
Mm-hmm. Absolutely. Now, can we talk a little bit more about the instructional plan, which you were talking about the three methods, full-time distance learning, the hybrid, and then, of course, if we get to a low spread type of situation, being able to return back to the face-to-face. At this time, how prepared is the school district for the full-time distance learning, considering there are, you know, some technology issues that relate to, you know, internet and Wi-Fi, and, you know, what are typically the plans there?
Well, we have been working in conjunction with Horry Telephone, you know, to address those Wi-Fi issues. Also, for areas, you know, that we have, you know, Wi-Fi issues, the State Department has supplied us buses with Wi-Fi capability. We always, you know, when we go back for our distance learning, we will have our campuses, you know, the actual campus open where you can drive on there if you need to, stay inside your car and, you know, access Wi-Fi. As far as the staff development portion of that, our distance virtual learning, like I said, we were kind of building it on the fly, April, as we were, you know, in March. But like I said, through staff development and retraining, we intend for it to look a lot differently on September 8th than it did on March 16th.
Mm-hmm. I'm sure that across all of the committees and, you know, different persons who were coming together to create these plans, there had to be some concern about the hundreds of students that kind of disappeared from the school's radar when everything shut down in March. Has Horry County been successful in locating any students that were impacted by that shutdown that you could not locate? Working towards that, and also hopefully that is what some of those elite days can be used to address some of those issues, you know, in August.
Okay. This is the worst case scenario, and that is you have to continue with virtual learning for all of next year.
Let's definitely hope not.
Well, yeah, that's what I'm saying. But that still should be on the table, right, for discussion, even though that you may deem it a worst case scenario. But has that been had any further discussions on that? I know you say you hope not, but you know, you got to think of all scenarios.
Well, Mr. McQueen, it's like I said initially, we're going to use science to make educated decisions. Right. And like I said, if we're in a high incident area, the safety of people's children, the safety of our employees is of the utmost importance. We will make our decisions based on what DHEC and CDC tells us. So we will have to monitor and adjust and do what we need to do.
So DHEC or the CDC might come and tell you that based on the latest science, you have to continue on with virtual learning.
Then we'll continue on with virtual learning.
Okay. So, yeah, and there aren't any special upgrades that you have to do for that, knowing that you have to continue on.
Working on making those, getting that done now. We started that in the early summer.
Okay. And some of those things are typically what?
Well, like I said, you would have to contact our technology because that's more technology based. That's why I said if you go on and access our report, a lot of that's outlined in there.
Yeah. Okay. Good. Thanks.
Okay. All right. So we're going to take a little break and then we'll come back. We have a ton of questions that are on the thread and we're going to get to them in just a moment. But we'll give everyone a chance to kind of catch their breath and come back to this discussion again. If you have any questions or comments, just post them in the thread and we'll continue to answer them as much as possible. So just hold on for a quick second and we will be right back. Do you need to complete your diploma or get your GED? Stop putting your future on hold. Contact the Horry County Adult Education Centers today. With 2 offices in Conway and Myrtle Beach, you'll be well on your way to a new career. The Conway Education Center is at 843-488-6200, or the Myrtle Beach Family Learning Center is at 843-839-5400. You can also visit the website at hcae.horrycountyschools.net. Heating unit not working? Need answers right away? Call Quick Services Heating and Air Conditioning for comfort in a hurry. Quick Services Heating and Air LLC is the right choice for you. Call Kenya and Nina Keith at 843-488-1492. Residential or commercial financing available. You can also visit their website at www.quickserviceshvac.com. That's KWIK serviceshvac.com. Quick Services Heating and Air LLC, the right choice for you. Serving Horry County for over 79 years, Palmetto Chevrolet in downtown Conway has just what you need to find new roads. Come through and browse, make your selection, and find new roads right away. Palmetto Chevrolet, 1122 4th Avenue, downtown Conway. You can also visit palmettochevrolet.com or call the service center at 843-248-4283. Palmetto Chevrolet, find new roads. Matthew and Beatrice Rue left a rich legacy of funeral home services in the capable hands of Atu and Tammy Williams. Ocean View Funeral Homes and Cremation Services with 2 chapels serving the Horry County area. They offer full service funeral and cremation services with no hidden fees. Call for details. The Conway Chapel is 843-248-5376. The Myrtle Beach Chapel is 843-916-8929. They offer affordable, professional, and caring full service packages. Ocean View Funeral Homes and Cremation Services. And we're back. Thank you so much. Yeah, we're back. Thank you so much for hanging in there with us. This is Whittemore Community Magazine Live. I am the co-host, April, and of course, Brother McQueen. He sits in the chair to the right. He's running the show, y'all, and making sure that we bring some great discussions to you as much as possible. We have our special guest today. Daryl C. Brown from Horry County School District. And Daryl, we don't want you to feel like
April, we gotta get this brother back on here again. I mean,
what happened?
And I love it when you say that C. That denotes me from all the other Daryl Browns in the world.
I know there's a lot of Daryl Browns out there. We got to make sure they understand. We got to put some respect on it.
Respect on it.
Exactly.
There's a lot of Daryl C. Browns.
I don't know. I only know one. But we're having Daryl is making every attempt to answer as many questions as possible from our viewers. And thank you guys so much for being with us tonight. And we didn't even have to create discussions. They've created the discussion for us. So Daryl, I'm going to get back into the questions. And, he's giving you some information on who you need to contact if he doesn't have the answer, but also we'll, take inventory of what's posted in the comments so that we can provide, our Horry County School District representatives with this information as well. Darryl is bringing us a perspective from the district office, and that might be a little bit different from the perspective from the school board. So, there's an opportunity for us to talk to other members who are making these decisions on how the school year will unfold. So just, want you to know that we're, making every attempt to educate everyone, since we're at this point now about how many weeks away from the start of school.
Oh, God. September,
10,
somewhere in that neighborhood.
About 10 weeks away from the start of school. And it seems like a long time, but it's really not, because we're almost out of July. So, everyone needs to just kind of take notice and understand some of the things that are being explained tonight about the type of learning and what's going to be happening. So one thing I want to ask you, Darryl, before we get into the other questions, is it a misconception that there's only going to be one way to attend school for 2020, 2021, or are parents given the option of how their students will return to school or should return to school?
Well, and like I said, I've tried to be, you fairly clear with that. But the thing is, as I've said, we're going to use science to drive decisions in that. And at this time, Horry County Schools is committed to using that science to make the decision. So, if we're still in a high state of spread, I mean, that option will be, virtually
full-time distance.
I mean, like I said,
has that been a big challenge? Has that been a real challenge so far?
Has what been a real challenge?
The virtual learning. I know it's new, so naturally it's a bit of a challenge. But
yeah, well, what a challenge is when you, like I said earlier, when you have to build when you have to build your car and drive it at the same time. That's a real challenge. We were caught completely, as in the entire nation, we were caught completely off guard with this thing. And like I said, we've strengthened that. And like I said, since that time we've learned. And so we're making, strides to make it a whole lot easier. Like I said, that's in our teaching and learning division. I don't work with that every day. So like I said, those will be the individuals you would need to talk. Like I said, I'm more of the operations person.
Okay. All right. So getting back to the question stream, there's a question again about orientations, and it sounds like people just want to know whether or not there's going to be some type of resources available to help get parents and students ready for the coming year. So this one involves more about training or orientation regarding COVID and what the students will be required to do at school. So how are you communicating, or what are the plans or discussions about communicating that type of information to parents and students?
And a lot of our, on that April, a lot of our information, once again, would be on the district webpage. Like I said, we have an entire district webpage that is related to frequently asked questions, things of that nature. Also, reaching out to their schools are another integral part, of doing that. As far as any type of face-to-face, in-person trainings, definitely would not be any of those types of things. But everything that we do would be done, virtually, and through our web pages, things of that nature.
Okay. Question: is there any scenario where some areas of Horry County schools might open while others do not? For example, Aner and Loris would open, but Myrtle Beach may be delayed in opening. Is that all driven by science as well?
That's driven by science.
Okay. All right. Another question regarding the gap in learning. This comment and question: it was determined by state legislature that students have a gap in learning as much as 1 year. Do you know how they determined that?
I
don't get the stats from the schools?
I don't know exact. That was determined by who?
Do they get the stats from the schools, Department of Ed? Where's that information come from? Do you know?
I don't know off the top of my head, because I think that was the legislators that made that comment.
Actually, it was a former educator that made the comment.
No, I'm talking about they were relaying that from a statement that was made by legislators. Okay. Is that what I'm asking?
It said it was determined by state legislature that students have a gap year in learning. Yes.
Exactly. And I don't know exactly where the legislation pull their information. I would hope that they would pull it from the State Department of Education, but I don't know because I don't know from where that was referenced.
Okay. All right.
I can't speak to that.
Okay. So school visitation, what would that look like? Outside services or professionals, will they be allowed in schools?
That you talking about when we get back to face-to-face learning?
They haven't really specified when on the scale of the disease level or whatever, but I would assume that as far as the plans right now, like, moving into September 8th, I would think that they're not going to allow any outside visitors right now.
Well, I mean, and I can tell you that, no. I mean, a lot of that's going to be done virtually, the same way we do our doctor's appointments and things of that nature at this point in time, it's be done virtually. I mean, we're in the midst of a pandemic. We can't have a lot of face-to-face activity with people. I mean, it is what it is. So, we've got to play the hand we're dealt, and we're dealt a bad hand, and we're having to play it.
Absolutely. Okay. Have you all had discussions about how teachers are to socially distance their students in the classrooms?
Yes, and that is another portion, that's part of our plan. As a matter of fact, that was one of my portions. Here's the thing that people have to understand. We're basically looking at, 50% capacity when you're looking at that hybrid model. And that's for two reasons, because students have to stay pretty much 6 feet apart, for proper social distancing. Students are going to, need to wear masks, things of that nature. But if you have half the capacity, if you need twice the capacity, you're going to need your buildings to be twice as big. I mean, that stands simple math. Well, we can't build our buildings twice as big. So what we have to do is, like I said, go back to half capacity. That is why we would need to have, that hybrid schedule until, we can get this thing under control, where we could have part of the students in one day, part of them doing virtual that day, next day, part of the students in, so on and so forth, because you've got to reduce the number of people in one isolated area. You've got to do that for the school buses. You've got to do that for the nutrition services as far as, lunchrooms. So this thing is far reaching. So, I mean, like I said, that is why we have to rely, and I hate to sound redundant, but it is what it is. That's why we have to rely on the science of this thing and, looking at what the CDC and DHEC tells us.
Exactly. And when you were talking about the hybrid, I would imagine that that's more about a phase-in plan once the cases start to go down and the COVID numbers start to flatten a bit from our high levels right now. So it's not really anything that you're talking about doing right now as of September 8th, but just as you're okay. All right. Okay.
Right now, as long as we're in the high traffic area, distance learning.
Distance learning, as long as we're high disease level. Okay. All right. Question. What were the findings of the surveys that were sent out? What was the opinions of the parents? What do you all know was the overall opinions of the parents?
And like I said, I don't have all those things committed to memory because they're so numerous. But if you go online, you can access all that, on our district webpage. Because that's too much information to have,
swimming around in your head.
Yeah. I mean, that's why we posted everything online.
Okay. All right. I would,
I want you to have that in your head, man.
Not word for word or, but here's my thought though. If all of these committees are talking across the table about what's best to do, surely you all are collaborating, and there's probably been some discussion about what either the majority or the minority of parents want. And, what have parents in Horry County said that they want for the most part?
And like I said, that can be accessed, on our webpage.
Okay. All right. Next question. We'll go down to let's kind of switch over to some of the ones that were actually
April. It was never clarified. I mean, I guess we just assume that everybody knows how to get to your webpage.
Yeah, let's make that clear to them.
www.horrycountyschools.net.
Okay.
www.horrycountyschools.net. Okay. Oh, yeah. And is there a particular channel or section on that website where they can get this information?
And it scrolls across and it's got COVID-19.
Okay.
And then also it has distinct links to the reopening draft plan. And like I said, and then you can access all of that information in there.
Okay. So, your
Thank you.
thanks. Part of your responsibility, you said, is school operations and logistics. So when it comes down to broadband access, particularly this question is coming from the Bucksport area. What's being done to make sure that areas like Bucksport can actually get the type of resources or assistance that they need in that particular area?
Well, I know a couple things that we've already done. Like I said, that is not in my area, but that is in technology. But I've been privy to some of that, to some of those meetings. I know they've been working with HTC to try to provide more broadband down there. Also, I know for a fact that we've sent some of those same Wi-Fi buses and things of that nature that I was referenced earlier. They've been sent to the Bucksport area. I know a couple of them were parked at the James Frazier Community Center, for student access. So I know that those things are in place, and I know there are ongoing conversations with Horry Telephone to help with that.
I know this is, again, you can defer to the technology area, but what are the school's plans if you know for the upgrading to 5G?
I don't know what discussions have been on that, Mr. McQueen, because like I said, that's not my area. Like I said, I just know what I've heard from the other one, and like I said, that I do not know what the plans on 5G are.
Mm-hmm. Okay. So you have something else, Brother Edward?
No, go ahead.
Okay. All right. So again, we received some questions prior to the show and just kind of want to get into a few of those as time permits. And now, Darryl, what is the main message that you want people to understand when it comes down to, their level of preparation for what's to come in September and, filtering through all this information? If it's a lot for you to filter through, I'm sure it's a lot for parents who are trying to make decisions about what's best for their children. There's a lot of things to be considered in terms of stress levels, health and well-being, effective teaching, quality of education, all of that, all of those things will have a long-term effect on, learning, but also on, teachers' efficiency and effectiveness. So, what would be your message to people who are concerned about this area?
April, I guess the biggest thing we can say is just know that Horry County Schools has the best interest of all children at heart. We're going to do what is right and what is scientifically sound to make sure that we provide a quality education for these students. You have to understand that this pandemic thing is new to everyone, and a lot of us are learning, as we go. But you've heard us said we're in this together, and we are committed to helping students be successful, in whatever environment they're in. But we're not going to sacrifice student safety at any point in time. Our student safety and well-being and our employee safety and well-being are of paramount importance to us.
Okay. If you have to start and continue with a 100% virtual learning experience for the students, will teachers still report to their classrooms, or will they teach from home online? Do you know? Well,
in April, that is what we're in discussions now talking about. There may be some opportunities for teachers to report to schools, practicing proper social distancing guidelines. But like I said, once again, we would need to have a schedule for that, and we would not want to have all of the teachers in the building, at one time. We would want a schedule, have them partially in on one day, have the other ones coming on another day. But we are discussing that. A final decision has not been made, but we are discussing that.
Okay. There was another question about athletics, and basically if school's going to begin with students in the building, what is the plan for athletics? But of course, I'm sure that would be driven by whether or not by September 8th, the disease spread levels have either remained the same or flattened. So anything you can lend in terms of that discussion about athletics?
Well, and regarding athletics, and other extracurricular activities, once again, that will be, driven by science as well. And also with athletics, we have to, to defer to the South Carolina High School League and their guidance. And, so we're listening, and to them and, waiting on some decisions to be made in those regards. And, and we'll see what decisions have been made. right now, athletics are just, they're in a, just being held, until we can get some further documentation that it's safe to put our kids out there.
Mm-hmm. So go ahead, Brother Edward.
Good.
You have your mouth fixed up like you're about to say something. I told you to jump in because I have questions. Go ahead.
All right. So, Brother Darryl, suppose all the athletics, the science tells you that, or the science concludes that you should have no athletics, period. Do you foresee any kind of challenge there with your students and keeping students with a sound behavior or whatever? Because that's a major part of a lot of students. They look forward to that and going to school. I mean, and practicing and all that kind of stuff. And football and basketball. Do you think that's?
I think not having athletics would be a big loss. And if I'm interpreting your question right, but once again, the people involved here, we want to make sure that children are safe, and we would hope that we can get this thing worked out and that the science will let us permit to do this. But once again, like I said, we're gonna err on the side of caution. And like I said, I'm not saying we're not gonna have it, but all I'm saying is the conditions gonna have to be right for us to have it.
Yeah, I can appreciate bringing out all the scenarios, and that's one of the scenarios that's possible.
The NFL and the NBA and all of these pro teams, and they got billions of dollars to spend, and they can't figure it out. I mean, you know what I'm saying? This is a moving target.
Right. But this is Conway. We should be able to figure this out.
Like I said, we got the NBA and the NFL that don't know what to do. The NFL still, they don't have a clue as to what to do with this thing. So, like I said, we're going to make the most educated, scientific decision we can make.
Okay, April, you got some more questions then. Okay, thanks, Darryl.
Mm-hmm. There's a series of questions that all relate to how the possibility of COVID cases would be handled in the schools. So, one question asks, what happens if a teacher tests positive for COVID and they're required to quarantine for 2 to 3 weeks? Is there sick leave covered? And what exactly do people need to know about how these types of issues will be handled?
And in that situation, April, they have passed the Families First Coronavirus Response Act, and we would have those individuals contact our HR department, and HR would accommodate them according to the Families First Coronavirus Response Act. Okay.
All right. And so, I guess you guys have not really, I'm not going to guess, I'll ask, in the event that something like that were to happen, have any protocols been established as to how you would handle a situation where possibly a teacher was exposed to coronavirus and happened to be in class?
Well, we've had employees that have been exposed to it already. Mm-hmm. And what we've done in those situations is, DHEC plays a major role in this. And once we, report those informations to DHEC, then we take our lead from DHEC on quarantine and things of that nature. So once again, that's what we would do. We would follow DHEC regulations and Center for Disease Control regulations. That's how all situations pertaining to COVID-19 will be dealt with.
Okay. All right. And I assume that there's probably a communications plan to make sure that parents, teachers, students all are constantly reminded of this information. Okay. All right. So when it comes down to, let's say the scenario of a parent, or not a parent, but a teacher, or even students, being exposed, and then classes or other teachers are exposed, then you have a situation where they may have to bring in substitute teachers, and they typically work in multiple schools. So if there is that diagnosis, how would that happen, or how would that be handled in terms of the amount of resources you'll then need to keep classes going?
Well, we've been very fortunate, and like I said, we've been trying to keep abreast of that we have a pretty robust, substitute pool. But like I said, once again, this has to go, with tracking and things of all that other nature. And, our director of nursing would have to work in conjunction with DHEC and CDC to identify, what areas would be directly affected, and then we handle it accordingly. Because depending upon, there's so many different scenarios, you can't account for them all. That's why you would have to, work through these agencies to allow them to help assist in that endeavor.
Mm-hmm. Okay.
Because there's such things out there as you got primary, if you've been face to face with somebody with it, if you've had or their primary contact, secondary contact, and things of that nature, and all that makes a decision difference in the decisions that have to be made with this. Because, like I said, if you're a primary contact, is one thing. If you're a secondary contact, it's something entirely different. Mm-hmm. So you have to work through each situation individually.
Mm-hmm. Now, have you, and of course, I think a lot of people are probably basing their questions on the what ifs, and, and that makes sense. It's natural for people to have those types of questions, and we'll continue to have those questions as the school year rolls out. Have you thought about what would happen in the event that there's like a mass number of students who actually test positive? How are you all planning to handle something that might occur in that respect?
Well, and like I said, I don't want to sound redundant, but it goes back to what I just said. You work with the people who have experience in this, and even though COVID-19 is new, the Centers for Disease Control and also DHEC have had experience in other types of outbreaks. So you have to rely on their professionalism and their history to help assist in these types of situations. Mm-hmm. Like I said, we are going to work with the science and the people who know the science on how to deal with outbreaks. And, starting virtually, and I know your question is pretty much more directed to, when we get back to face, whenever, that is. Mm-hmm. But like I said, that's when we would handle that. And, if you need to isolate a certain section, then you isolate that section. But it all has to be built on how it happens and the science of the situation. Okay.
You're right about the questions that are coming in. A lot of them are really more about what will happen in, a return to face-to-face contact or even a hybrid contact, which, I don't know if there are any, I'm sure we could do the research to find out whether or not there is a percentage of flattening that needs to happen in order for the science to regulate that we're able to return to hybrid or face-to-face situations. But, when it comes down to what parents really need to know about preparing themselves for the return to school, the options are on the table. You've said over and over again during the course of this discussion that right now the science says that that Horry County School District will probably be a full-time virtual or distance learning environment until the flattening starts to happen. And correct me if I'm not following the facts of what you said. And as far as COVID is concerned and how those types of situations will be handled, case by case basis, dealing with it, but you don't anticipate there being as many COVID related type scenarios right now, because there should not be a face-to-face environment moving into September the 8th, especially with the numbers constantly increasing. But, now that that parents have these questions about what happens beyond that, what is the best course of action? Should parents pull their questions together and get with their local school board member, go straight to their principals? Who's going to actually have the answers that parents are looking for all of these future scenarios?
I guess, our best way to handle that is, do you all have some type of forum where parents can send their questions, April, and you get the questions to me, and hopefully, we can get it as it goes back? Because like I said, right now, some of these answers, are not going to be, really needed at this point because of the simple reason, distance learning. Mm-hmm. But as we get into it and as we learn more, because like I said, CDC, DHEC, we're learning more about this pandemic daily. So the answers could change because, as you know, CDC's already changed some things that they initially thought about this coronavirus. So I guess if you could keep a running tally of some sort of the questions, and then, we could monitor them and as we're able to get the answers we need, then get them back out to the parents. I guess that's the best way to go about it.
Well, we can certainly make that happen. We'll install a survey or at least a way for you to drop your questions that you have regarding this particular situation with the return to school, the reopening for Horry County School District. We can place that on the WCMmagazine.net website. That's WCMmagazine.net. We'll make sure to put it on the homepage. You can give us your information and put in the comments what questions you may have. And we'll gather all of those questions because, like I said, there's plenty of questions that were asked that in some form or fashion you answered tonight. But I can tell you that a lot of them, are a lot deeper in terms of how they were asked. And I'm not quite sure if you're equipped to answer these questions tonight, but we want to get these answers for the community because, number one, they deserve the answers, and you can't make decisions about what you want to do in education without being educated about, what your options are and what lies ahead. So we'll make that happen. And Brother Edward, I think I can make that happen by tomorrow so everybody can start to drop their questions in, and we'll pull them together. And, a goal is to, again, include someone from the school district, or not from the school district, but from the school board, who could actually answer some questions that you're unable to answer at this time, because like you said, it's not in your wheelhouse. But, is Brother Edward, do you have any other remarks or questions? Or I'm just going to scroll through the comments real quick to see if there's anything else that Darryl may be able to address tonight that he hasn't already addressed.
Yeah. I just want to applaud Brother Darryl on addressing the question and issues that we placed to him today. I thought answered them very well. Some realized they're reserved, and some were that you couldn't answer. Okay, you give us a deference to a website and stuff like that. I understand that, but I certainly appreciate your candidness, and looking forward to have you back on the program again. While April, while we're checking out the more responses from everybody, this one, if I can just inject this thing about Miss Rutilla Great. Hey, she's turning 98 this Saturday, and they're going to have a parade for her in front of her house. You're going to drive by and just wish her a happy birthday. Now, guess what? It's supposed to be a surprise, right?
Did you just ruin the surprise?
Yeah, no, but we don't think that she's looking at this on the internet because
hey, underestimate Miss Rutilla now. Don't underestimate Miss Rutilla. She's still wearing heels. Is she still driving?
She's still driving.
Okay, she's still wearing heels and she's still driving. So don't underestimate her.
Don't be surprised if she's got a computer in her car. You
may have a little tablet watching.
But we're glowing with confidence that she doesn't have access to any of these modes that we just discussed. So, but anyway, it's supposed to be a surprise, but we were allowed to have to tell the people that it is a surprise, thinking that she's not going to be looking or listening to it. So it's going to be at 6 p.m. this Saturday. It's Friday. Okay, that's July 24th, 6 p.m. Drive by her house on 434 Thompson Street in Conway. And she'll probably have a box there where you can just put the cards in, stuff like that, birthday cards or whatever, or money, okay, in an envelope, and just congratulate her for reaching that milestone. That's my role model.
Yeah. Put a little something in the card. Don't give her a dry card.
Yeah,
put a little something in there. Don't ever give anybody a dry card.
Yeah, right. So kudos to her daughter, Miss Mary Blaine, whose husband, Mr. Wilson Blaine, just passed not too long ago. She's sent out all of the information regarding that. But we just thought that was such a milestone, and we just had to congratulate her. Okay, certainly wish her 98 more. So for everybody, please don't let the cat out of the bag, even though it's being broadcast.
Please don't tell it. Please don't tell it.
Don't let the cat out of the bag.
Exactly.
Yeah, we don't think that she's listening. So again, it's a surprise. Just go by there, drop something in the box. She was supposed to have a box up standing on the street. I mean, in her yard. So you can just drive by. Don't have to get out of the car. And it's best that you don't, in order to obey the social distancing. Okay.
Mm-hmm.
Thank you all for that.
All right. So there are at least 2 or 3 more questions I'm going to get to. This should be quick for you, Daryl, and then we can wrap it up. One question is about the possibility of student teaching. Would that be an option? I think the community is kind of reaching out to say, how can we help? You know, what can we do in terms of providing some assistance? I'm sure there's some, student teachers and some programs who are probably about to graduate or looking for some classroom hours, things of that nature. I mean, could that be a part of the options in the event that something major happens and you run into a teacher shortage or substitute shortage?
Well, and I guess, my question with that is, I would need a few more details and exactly how, it would be regulated.
Mm-hmm.
And, just to throw out student teaching is just, that's a broad spectrum of things. And I mean, are you talking about, like you said, someone that is in a teacher preparation program? Are you talking about somebody that's already graduated? Things of those nature. I mean, I'd have to have more details, where it could be discussed, with the appropriate people.
Okay. All right. That's fair enough. Also, are there plans to hire more people to keep the building sanitized?
Those are definitely, things that we need to take a look at. What we have done, because this, like I said, this pandemic is an entirely different monster. We have ordered some of those electrostatic machines that you can use the tablets in that sanitize. And we've ordered 2 per school, a backpack sprayer and a handheld sprayer. And what our intentions are is to make sure that we go through every school, after it's clean during the day with those types of sprayers, and sanitize the school after it's been clean, when we get students back in it. That should hopefully cut down on some of the actual manpower needed, because those are like a mister and it sprays, the mist all over the equipment and everything in the room.
Mm-hmm.
Not harmful to anything, but it sanitizes, got a good sanitation rate on it. So hopefully that's gonna be one thing. We are looking at the possibility of having to hire some more help in that area, because like I said, we've increased our cleaning protocols tremendously, with this pandemic as it warrants. So yes, that is definitely a consideration.
Okay. What about school nurses? Any thoughts of hiring more school nurses?
Well, we have our allocations for school nurses, and that is something that would probably be considered if necessary. But like I said, we at this present time think we are staffed accordingly.
Okay. All right. And, just a note, the city of Conway passed a mask ordinance that's inclusive. So I assume that means that, I'll ask Councilman Larry White if you can kind of clarify that as far as the mask ordinance. When you mean inclusive, does that inclusive of the school system or, and that's another good question too. If you do get to a point where the hybrid classes, are the phase that you're moving into or phasing into, will you have enough PPE for all of the students and teachers and staff? And are you already planning for that?
Yes, ma'am. We've already had the State Department of Education has already delivered and is in the process of delivering, 5 masks for each teacher, masks for bus drivers, masks for nutritional services staff, folks of that nature. Horry County Schools is going to provide the rest of it. We are actively looking now, for PPE mask, to make sure we have enough for our students. So we are well on the way to making all that happen.
Okay. So Councilman White says that everybody is covered under the City of Conway ordinance. Thank you for that clarity. All right. Well, Brother Edward, do you have any other questions or comments? You always get the last word. And I'm going to compile all of these questions. And again, we'll put something on our WCMmagazine.net website so that you can actually drop in your questions, and we'll compile all those questions and get them over to Darryl, whoever we need to get them to. Should I send them to you?
Send them to me, and
Okay.
I'll do my best to get them,
To where they got to go.
And if I can say anything, please, folks, take this seriously. This is a serious issue we are dealing with. This pandemic is unlike anything that any of us have ever seen. Practice your social distancing, wear your mask. Let's stop the spread of this monster.
Yeah, we appreciate that statement, man. Really, coming from the school district like that. I'm glad you all are so cognizant of that. I just want to again applaud you for your responses, and applaud our viewers and our listeners for chiming in.
Yes.
Yeah, we just want to. We're glad that you are taking this program seriously, because that's all we're going to have is some serious stuff. Okay, for that's going to be our motto. All right, and that is to have stuff like cautions on this virus and so forth. And speaking of the virus, tomorrow from 8 to 12, unless somebody can chime me wrong, at Bethlehem they have COVID testing from 8 to 12, 8 in the morning to 12 p.m. That's testing at the Bethlehem #1 Missionary Baptist Church.
Out on the Sand Ridge.
Yeah, that's on the ridge.
On the ridge.
It's on the Sand Ridge. So if I'm wrong, but somebody please.
I'm pulling it up right now, Brother Edward, to see what the deal is. And
Yeah,
you're right, it's from 8 to 12 drive-through.
Yeah, drive-through tomorrow. Okay.
Mm-hmm.
Tomorrow. That's what my calendar said. So anyway, so good. And hope everybody takes advantage of it.
Exactly. Paul Campbell says, good discussion. Good to see my Clemson roommate doing big things in Horry County. How about that, Darryl?
Hey, POC, what's up, buddy?
All right. You never know who you're going to see. We're global, right, Brother Edward? We're global. We used to say that all the time we were on the radio. We're global. But this has been a great discussion. And, I hope we were able to provide some light and some information for all of you. Hope that, some of your questions were answered. I know all of them weren't. And again, we will pull together everything that we can, get this information to Horry County School District, and we'll do a follow-up school board and maybe even invite Darryl back. He may have some updates for us, who knows? But we just want to make sure that you all understand that, we're here to inform, educate, and enlighten. So we will do everything we can to bring this information to you. So thank you all so much for tuning in. Thank you for all of the shares across social media. Excuse me. Thank you for tuning in via YouTube and also our WCMmagazine.net webpage. We really do appreciate it. And we hope that everyone has a wonderful night and a blessed week.
Thank you all for having me, April, Mr. McQueen.
Yes, sir.
Right.
Good to see you again, brother.
Good to see you. Stay safe.
All right. Take care, everyone. Stay safe. Mask up. Mask up. Well, we're gonna have to create a new dance for that or something. Yeah.
I think things are getting better. Okay?
Create a dance and post a video.
And people are. I've seen more masks now than I've ever seen in a long time. People wearing masks. So they're not just catching on, but they're trying to obey the science, so to speak. Okay, and not follow any one person. We'll see you on that note.
Ooh-wee. That was tight right there. Tight, but it's right. Okay. We'll see y'all later. Thank you.
All right. God bless.